Yeah, there's different types of frustration.
Let's name all the flavors. Taxonomy of frustrations. There's a possible title. We're 5 seconds into this. I love it.
It's like stress. There's fight or flight. There's there's different kinds of stress, right? There's like this. There's a stress where I'm in fear of something. I guess all stress is fear, isn't it? Otherwise, why would it be bothering me?
Stress is fear. Yeah, I mean, fear of an outcome coming to pass that would threaten your love, safety, or belonging.
Now, there might be a type of stress that is like when I'm working on a project, I don't feel fear, but I feel pressure. But it's more like inertia or something. And I don't know if you'd call that frustration. It's more like I gotta get everything out of my way so that I can make this thing happen. And some people interpret that as a negative stress because it can seem that way, for me at least.
Well, we have another frustration. Your audio quality is glitching in the way that I hate whenever I'm hearing a podcast.
Okay. Let's see if we can make that better. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll do a little elevator music hold here. See if we can keep the listener. Dear listener, I can't say how much I'm thankful to have you here with Jeffrey J. Byron, who's the other person, and I'm Jeffrey P. Lewis, though I don't go by my full name. I go by my stage name, Jeff Lewis. It's Jeff with a G. But I changed my name a lot. I'm still not sure how to present myself, and I may be purely the anxiety of the choice of self-presentation. That really may be what I actually am, and I think I feel more at home in that voice and in the identity of the anxiety itself than I am in my actual person, because I don't believe my actual person exists. And I think my role is to remind everyone that the self, we're all the self. And I think that's my role.
So you change your name often because you don't know how to present yourself yet. You haven't decided on when way, but I don't. Will you ever decide one way to present yourself? Probably not. Right? I can't imagine
that. We're back. We're on air again. We're on air again. And the audience never will know we had a false start. It was we had a 3-minute call that I thought was amazing and may have been our best episode yet. And then I decided to explode the whole thing because I suspected the audio quality on Jeffrey J. Byron's end was bad, but I was wrong.
We can always publish that as a separate episode.
We can. Art Talk 13.1. And then we'll do number 14 tonight. Yeah, that sounds good.
4 minutes and 15 seconds.
Well, I mean, shouldn't we have some super fans who like love every little thing, like a band's groupies want like the drumstick or like the torn T-shirt.
Yeah, guitar pick.
Easter eggs.
Right. Right. The Easter eggs of the art conversations.
Right. Well,
so what inspired you to hit me up and say let's record tonight? What was it? What hit you?
Yeah, well, it had been a long time since we talked. I did some cryptocurrency activity today and yesterday, and I know that that's in your
is this a crypto podcast now?
Is a word? No. I mean, but it is about, and I in the brief moment ago, I hopped in a room on Clubhouse about art and NFTs, which is a non-fungible token, which is a way to collect people's digital art and have a gallery. I think it's interesting. I mean, the internet is like a vast, it's like a matchmaking service between artist and collector. Essentially between soul and collector of that soul.
Yeah. This concept of like digital line of code that is represented by an image, it is pretty high concept, and actually we can get pretty philosophical about it. But I think in practical terms, it's a little hard for me to watch what's going on right now in that space, because as you mentioned, like that's kind of been my podcasting wheelhouse for a while, has been cryptocurrencies. And to see I've been through several market cycles at this point. And when I see that much enthusiasm about something that people just really don't understand at all, and they're spending millions, hundreds of thousands for that line of code, um, and then to be the one that has to tell people, that this has no precedent in the legal world at all. Like, you're not actually buying something that means anything to anyone else except for you and the person who sold it to you. And that's a pretty tough thing to realize. It's kind of like well, you know how, like, you could argue that nothing really has inherent, and nothing really has
Sure.
nothing has inherent value. That's kind of a weird. It's actually Mario Gibney just tweeted today, and I retweeted him. He said nothing has inherent value because that concept doesn't make any sense when you think about it.
Well,
I don't know.
A thing is worth what you could go sell it for tomorrow, right? A Mercedes-Benz has value. A certain baseball card has value. A steak tartare at the W Hotel in Los Angeles has value because it's all. I mean, I guess you can't guarantee what will happen tomorrow, but like, that people will come and to buy it. That's the value of what it is.
Yeah, and that is the reason a lot of people buy a lot of cryptocurrencies, is because they think it will have value tomorrow. And so when I see, I am very happy to see a lot of artists generating some income off of this new system. But at the same time, I can't help but think that it's probably not going to last. But it does bring up the question of what exactly, it brings up the question of ownership. It really does bring it into a digital world. And what does it mean to own something? What is property? What is intellectual property? Which was one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, same.
And can you actually assign an ownership to something, to an idea? Can you do that in the first place? And then, if you can you do that with an arbitrary line of code? Can you do that? There's a code, and code is nothing more than a contract. And that's something we also see with Ethereum. It's made of smart contracts, which is just if-then statements that are distributed.
Well, yeah, that's what AI really is. If you really unmask what artificial intelligence is, it's, what are you going to let a math function do instead of live human judgment that has to do it again? It's the opposite of, like, sewing something, where you need to be the one with your fingers, with the needle and the thread, making a new hole every time. You need to be there. And to me, I mean, that's like the whole, like, basis of the meaning of human activity is, was a person there to do just that, right? Cooking a meal, making a rope swing. Like, it matters because someone did it. They paid the opportunity cost of being nowhere else but right there, and they did it. And it's like, if I don't think that's there, it has no charge for me, and my heart can't relate.
But it has to be, I mean, it has to be not just a thing that you did, but something else that somebody else can appreciate. Oh man, this is that old question of what is the art? What is the art? Like, for instance, and one of the reasons that people say Bitcoin has value is because you had to use a bunch of electricity to generate it. Well, is that really why it has value, or does it have value because somebody is willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
And then,
it's a cult, which is fine.
It's a cult. So then our appreciation of art, is that a cult too?
I think so. I think so.
And then
Yeah.
we're okay with that.
Well,
So it's just a different ways of.
cult and culture aren't really that different. Um,
You're right.
yeah, I mean,
There's
it's a
three letters different.
yeah, um, yeah. I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, because it's cults anywhere you turn. I mean, there's nothing that's totally organic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
family structure, right? I mean, think about other animals. Like, no one really kept track of who the parents were. Like, I don't know, like with like dolphins or whales or snails or birds. It's like once the I mean, my mother raises pygmy goats and chickens, and it's like once the thing is grown, it's in the herd, and you don't really pay attention. Now, while it's a baby, you are very defensive over that thing because you've got a biological job to do to get that thing up to speed, to onboard it to the regular speed of the group. But once they're up, um, I'm not sure this is for goats, but for chickens, I think you just like you can't tell who your kids are anymore if they're not kids anymore. So it's all about like mother. I mean, geez, I mean, talk about the art of motherhood, and here's where we should, be smart about how to invite some female guests on to our very masculine show.
Well, that would be
Yeah,
something, wouldn't it? That would be like
I
chemistry.
mean, I mean, yeah. Kudos to any woman who steps in the arena with two men. That would be cool. Very cool. But anyway, yeah. The
So
art.
I'm
Yeah. What
happy
is
to
the art?
see.
What's the meaning?
I'm happy to see a lot of my friends making art and making some money off of like show people showing their appreciation for the art by paying for it by whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to see my friends monetize their art. People who were not very good at that for so long. To see them do
Mm.
it through this new kind of system that is this puzzle, and I like that. To me, it's kind of like I can I can I can download a piece of art from the internet. I can print it out on my printer, and then I can frame it and I can put it on my wall. And that's my
Mm-hmm.
appreciation for it. And then if I want to, I can send the artist $100 and say, I really love what you did and I want to support you. And to me, that's kind of like what we should all be doing. That's what we should all be doing, is
Yeah.
supporting the arts. That should be part of our culture to do that. And it hasn't been
Yeah.
for so long. And so this idea of,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's have a digital non fungible token. This is just kind of an arbitrary thing that we attach to this
It
art.
is very
But
there.
now it's getting people to say, "Oh, okay, then I'm going to I'm going to spend that money. I'm going to hang this on my wall." And then
Mm-hmm.
also what I get to do is I get to turn around and sell it to somebody else. Um, because it gives it that kind of value
It's an
as long as people
investment.
are willing. It's an investment, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, I love the fact that the artist gets a little cut when it gets upsold or it changed hands again.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
That makes it really, really cool. So all of a sudden, I mean, like, think about the notion of royalties, right? And like someone like Michael Jackson or Prince or the Beatles, where their stuff just gets played for like 40 years, 50
Yeah.
years. And it's
It's
like,
amazing.
right? It's like, I'm sure someone bought Revolver or Rubber Soul or the White Album. I mean, surely someone, one person or three people somewhere bought that record. Now, whatever it means, and I'll ask you this, you, a musician and a
Hmm.
sound designer, as well as a cryptolosopher, um, what does it mean to buy an album? And maybe you can even trace it from the most technical to the most abstract and philosophical. When I ask you, what happens when someone buys an album and why did they do it? Like, go off on all of the weird depths and rabbit hole of that question.
Oh man, there's so many good ones. Well, first of all, when somebody buys a record, I think for a long time, and this kind of came up through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, um, you were buying a product. And for a long time, the record industry, the record label, thought that they were selling products. And that used to be a thing where the record label would say, have you finished the product yet? Do you have the master? They used to call
Yeah.
this art the product, and it'd be like, "Wow, how are you doing that?" Um, and it wasn't until recently. It wasn't until basically Napster that this started to be like, "Oh crap, it's the product is not the CD. It's not the vinyl." Sure, there's still merchandise that artists sell, and that's part of their business model. But that's not the thing that they're creating, right? So when you buy an album these days, which most people don't do, most people don't buy albums. That's not the way. That's not where the industry gets its money.
Well, right. I mean, and I guess I meant digital, but then I
Hmm.
don't know if I meant like through iTunes. Like, what is that? Do people buy records on iTunes and
I
put
don't
them
think
on their
so.
iPod?
I don't think
Like,
so. Not anymore.
I mean, record sale. I mean, record sales seems like a totally ridiculous metric to try to cite in good faith today.
Yeah, it's kind of like, back in the day, you could buy a painting or you could buy a digital piece of art, but now you can just download it and put it on your desktop, on your screen, on your home screen or whatever. You could print it out.
Well, a painting is certainly something else
True.
than
That's true.
yeah.
And I think that you're absolutely right. I think that, and in that case, there's probably some kind of equivalent, maybe a vinyl record, that like a
Mine,
music
yeah.
that a musical artist could create that is saying this is not something that you could experience over the internet. This is something else.
Right.
Like the Flaming Lips would do these things where like they released an album that was 4 CDs that you had to play all at the same time. Um, they actually tried to produce an album that was made all on cassettes that you'd have to, there were like hundreds of people that would have to get together in parking lots and all start playing them at the same time. Yeah, some
Whoa.
pretty wacky ideas. It's really cool. Wayne Coyne from Flaming Lips is a
Wow.
genius. Um,
Whoa. That's a
so
great that whoa. 4 separate CDs and like each person has to like bring one, or you have to have 4 stereos in your
mhm.
room.
You have to have four
That's
stereos, and you have to
cool.
hit play on all of them at the same time. And the whole point was that you couldn't really possibly do that. Like you could never really do it.
Yeah.
So the album always sounded different every time you heard it. I I wanted to
Whoa.
start a project for a while where
Wow.
so many live musicians. I mean, we haven't had live musicians in a while, but so many live bands were playing with their backing tracks, meaning pre-recorded tracks
Uh-huh.
that play in the background while they
Yeah.
kind of noodle guitar or sing or lip sync on top of them. I
Uh-huh.
wanted to start a project, and I might still do this, where instead of the backing track be the backing track, we actually make the recording front and center. And
Hmm.
me, a guitarist, and the drummer are the backing band to the main track. Like, imagine we're
Hmm.
playing with a robot or something, like, flip it on its head. And
Huh.
then you do something where you make it so that the computer or whatever you're playing with doesn't play the same thing twice, that plays a random combination of, say, instruments and parts of songs or something like that. The thing I'm
Oh.
trying to get at here is, well, I think that's a wacky idea. I think that all artists need to try to figure out how to make those those types of tokens in the real world, those IRL tokens, those physical
Mm-hmm.
things. Because some people collect vinyl records, but it's not something that, I mean, you can always listen to the record. You can stream it. You buy a vinyl record because you like to have something that is ownable, so that you can have something that. I mean, some people might say that vinyl records sound better, but I disagree. I think they sound a little
Oh
bit
wow.
different. Um, but most people buy a vinyl record. They want the big art. They want to feel like they own something from that artist. And I think that in the future, music and sound artists are going to need to think of new ways to commodify their art. And that could be, I don't know, could be musical, anything. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of artists these days make their own musical instruments, make their own
Uh-huh.
synthesizers, or make their own ways of, music box. Imagine if I was my next album I released on music box. You actually had to wind it up in order to play it,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. I think that
Yeah.
we do need to get back to that. And I think the whole NFT phenomenon is reminding people that there needs to be some kind of interaction between the the purchaser and the artist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, and you've heard me quote this 1999 David Bowie interview where he says, like, the internet it totally will obliterate what people thought mediums were all about. And that the artist and audience are, to use his words, so in simpatico that it's really a communal demystification of the different
Yeah.
roles.
Well, here's a question for you, Jeff. What about a piece of writing that you only published
Mm,
on one sheet of paper,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was it? That was your
Well,
literature.
you just gave me an idea because I have like multiple hundred pages of of plain white paper filled up with either typewriter ink or pen ink, which I've made, and they're all unique. And those each could be an NFT, and that's actually a really good idea. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And like
Um,
as a fan of your art, why would I not want to own that? That would be so cool,
yeah.
Whether it was a digital version of it or like just the real piece of paper that I could frame and put
Well,
on my wall.
yeah, and I mean, with writing, it gets so interesting because every reader will have their own interpretation of that page, and so what's actually very interesting is like, and like this isn't how NFTs work, but like if 12 people say all owned one of the pages and they all could like write comments on it, and like that became a canvas for the 12 people who like that thing and the author enough to go play there, and it's like all of a sudden that becomes like a destination, like a canvas that also they become almost like the caretakers of.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many ways to like be a fan of someone, right? I mean, it does come back to Dunbar's number and like how many evolving stories of a person can you keep straight in your mind? That's really the limit. But yeah, I mean, the thing about life and certainly being a creative person is like every day is new and different, right? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
the show I'm putting on for myself in my own head is a whole day's worth of programming that could be watched, and it would take all day. Um, the art of writing, and I think just the art of any art, is like how to reduce my experience onto a form that distills it so you can, it'll take someone, you know, 5 or 10 or 15 days to read a book that it may have taken 10 years for someone to write.
Yeah.
So yeah, this like reduction of consciousness into a form. Right? It's like you can go binge on my tweets and you can sort of get the gist of my angst and anxiety over the last, week, month, year, 7 years, right? I mean, it's all there. So it's really all about like where do you want to point your eyes?
I guess when it comes down to it, there are a lot of ways to be a fan, but if you had to choose one way that I could be a fan of your writing, like you wouldn't care, right? As long as I was
Hmm.
getting a part of you, that's all you would really care
Hmm.
about. I mean, for like,
Hmm.
see, the thing is I think I'm a little bit different because when I write, well, I don't think I am. When I write a piece of music, the thing that I want to do is I want to change your emotions in that moment when you
Hmm.
listen to it. That's my goal. That's what I really
Huh.
want. I don't want you to buy anything. I don't want you to even appreciate anything. I just want to make a sad person happy and a happy person sad. You know?
If I'm a thought replacer, you're an emotion flipper. I'm
I'm
gonna
an
flip your
emotion flipper.
emotion. I like that.
Yeah. I want to whisper in your ear and make you sad, or vice versa.
Mm.
Or I want to whisper in your ear and I want to tell you what's going on in emotional
Mm.
terms, whether that's something
Mm.
inside of you or inside of me or inside of something that you're watching. That's what it's always
Huh.
been. But I think that, but we tend to, we're human beings. We're very materialistic, so we want to feel like we're owning things. I think we want to feel like we have a piece of stuff. It makes us feel
Mm.
special. You know, like when I used to tour, there would be people who would want my guitar picks and our drumsticks and stuff. Like that would make them feel really special. I smashed a guitar on stage once, and then a
Nice.
couple of kids ran and grabbed all the parts that splintered from the
Nice,
guitar, and they
dude.
pieced it back together because that reminded them of that night. You know, they're having a great night.
Was it an acoustic guitar?
No, it was an electric.
Splintered. Okay, you said
Well,
splintered.
yeah, it did kind of splinter though.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's a long story, actually. It was a guitar that I had actually. It's a long story. It's a long story. There was a maybe I have to tell it. There was this fan who emailed me once, and he was starting to ask me all these questions about my guitar. I played this kind of unique guitar, and he was asking me like where I got it, like where you could find another one, and where did I get the color. And finally he found one. He found one like that. It was on eBay, and he ordered it. It was exactly like my guitar. And then the next time we were touring in Germany, I went to the club and we were being interviewed by this guy for this magazine. And before the interview, the interviewer's girlfriend took me aside and he said, "This is Andre. He's the guy who wanted your guitar." And it turns out that he never actually got the guitar in the first place. So I decided to leave him my guitar because I had a spare there anyway. So I gave him the guitar. Then 2 years later, I go back to Germany, and he brings the guitar to the show so I can play it. And he whispers to me, and he says, "If you need to destroy it on stage, I understand."
Wow.
And I was like, you've given me permission to destroy a guitar on stage that used to be mine and then was yours.
Whoa.
So I smashed the guitar, and then he picked up the pieces afterwards, put it back together, and still has it. So,
No. Yeah. Wow.
mm-hmm.
Well, talk about a story of the meaning of a thing that that artist and fan share, and how much work and careful care it took to make that. Whoa.
Yeah, totally. And to think like what what's where was the art in that? Well, we made the music in the first place. I had the one thing about the guitar that was interesting is I had put a lot of my own electronics into it. It had like a built-in synthesizer inside of it. So he had done the exact same thing, and so there was that. That was unique. There was the fact that we had both shared the thing, that we were both fans of what was going on. And then what ended up the final product was this smashed, recreated, deconstructed, reconstructed musical instrument that is now living in somebody's studio still making music, which is kind of cool. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we are materialistic, but only so that we can tie these material things to those memories and the things that we actually love. Because when it comes down to it, my goal, which was really just to make someone happy, that I achieved that, I think. You know?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you can't pay for that, right? Like that relationship.
That's true.
I mean,
you can't.
The thing that relationships cost is time. And it's that same opportunity cost of hanging a rope swing. Is like, right? And like, I'm not the easiest writer to understand. It's sort of a long road to really get what I'm about. And I mean, that's as hard for my friends and my family as it is for a reader of my work. Like, it's a high volume of stuff, and it's sort of hard to figure out what exactly is going on and like who you are and why I should listen to you. I mean, I often don't have great answers to those questions, and I think that it also changes every day. Um, but for the large handful of people who know what I'm about and have a relationship with me, um, yeah, someone could buy it and like buy one of my things or a token representing something that I did, but it's like the real value and meaning for that person is in what it means to them and how they think our journeys are linked, right? Being a fan, you you pay for it with your life. Really being a fan, you pay for it by showing up and taking it into you, right? I mean, music I like, I've made it a component part of myself. And I can listen to a record year after year and it speaks to me in a new way. I mean, it's like reading books, reading authors. There's, a big handful of authors who have been dear to me since I was, 15 or 18 or 21. And it's a space in my heart that they have. And maybe what we want to do with, these, the endless digital museum that we can all now curate as an individual. We can
Mm-hmm.
all make a link tree with all these social media pages. We essentially want to show people what's in our heart. And so it's really like Plato's cave all over again, but it's like, here's a cave of my heart, and I want to show you the things that I care about and that have formed me. And that's really all human beings want to do. The whole creator economy is all there just so we can get free to love things, let things move us, let things bother and disturb us and challenge us, and then talk about
Mm-hmm.
that with other people. That's all we want to do. And my politics and economics are such that we should be free to do that. It's yeah, that's what human beings should be doing, because that makes people better leaders and lovers and parents and children. And any job we have, we do better when we are aware of what moves us and what has made us, and when we are giving that to others and also keeping space in our inputs to receive that from others. And frankly, that ethos I just articulated is a threat to big media corporations, certainly news corporations, who want to keep you scared and keep you angry. Right? I've, in a big way, am maybe getting close to conquering fear and conquering anger. And this isn't to say I don't get scared or mad. I'm probably scared and mad every minute of the day, and I will be until the day that I die. But learning what to do with those emotions and channel it into productive, visionary community building through creating stuff and also attending other people's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's the
Yeah.
call. And yeah, that's the calling. That's the
Yeah.
vision.
What you said that when you listen to music, it kind of becomes part of you, and it's something that you can appreciate over and over again. But for you these days, buying a record, you don't buy records anymore, right? You just stream them. You belong to a streaming service. Is that right?
I
That's
belong to a
okay.
streaming service. Yeah.
You belong to a streaming
Yeah.
service.
Well, yeah. Sometimes
Which
I'll go to my iTunes, which is my music library that I've built starting when I was probably 12 or 15.
Right, you still have that, and that's still
Yeah.
important to you. But I think for people in the future, it's going to be one of those weird in between things that people did. It was like you stored digital files on you. It's a this is I'm kind of a little bit stuck on that question of what what are you doing when you buy an album? When you buy like what are you buying? What are you buying? What are you selling? And then there's this other aspect of music and ownership, which is this crazy system of licensing music, which is basically a contract that allows people to borrow music temporarily. It's just really kind of strange. And to give it some context, um, this is just one of the weirdest things that has been left over from like the 1940s, right? Where we've got a system where back when you had a radio station and you couldn't always get the artist or the record, sometimes you'd have to rent the sheet music, the publishing. Right? So you'd actually have to get the published sheet music, and then you'd have to hire a local musician to like sing the song or to play the song in your studio. And then towards the 50s and 60s, we started to get these master recordings. So not only did you have access to the publishing the sheet music, but you also had access to the master recording. And then now 50 years later, we still have this as a part of the music business. When you license music, or when I sell a license to music, I have to consider both the publishing and the master use, which are kind of obsolete now. They're the one and the same, except we still have this leftover thing, and it's really, really weird. But one of the things that it makes me realize is that we are so new. Like, we are so new to this thing. Think about how long recorded music has been around for. Like, nothing compared to like published writing or whatever, like the, a painting or art or sculpture or anything. This art that we call, recording arts is brand new, and there's a good chance that it's going to be a completely different thing in 10 years. And the last 50 years that we spent trying to figure out what it was and how to build an industry around it was just us thinking we were important when we're not. And how when it comes down to it, and oh man, maybe we can start talking about synchronous versus asynchronous art, because like shit, that's what we're talking about here. When you record something, all of a sudden you make it last forever. You've now all of a sudden, and so now in the future we're going to be dealing with two different types of art. The one that lasts forever, that is the same thing, which is the recording. The recordings that you listen to, the ones that you have on your iPod, or the ones that you stream, those those recordings so well. But the idea of listening to the same exact thing over and over and over again, imagine trying to explain that concept to somebody in the 1600s or whatever. Like, what the hell? Yeah.
Well,
I
mean, the real challenge may be synchronous and asynchronous listening, and then how to come together with others the next day and sort of make sense of of the meaning of what you did yesterday. I mean, like this really pulls on the threads of of education, family. It's really hard to grasp, like, and I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
This conversation is making me want to create more, which is good.
That's good.
Because what you just said, trying to make sense of what you did yesterday.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what all of my art is, really. I mean, it might have an intent of some sort, but really I'm just trying to make sense of whatever my last feeling was.
Yeah.
And like, the idea, think about this, like the idea that whatever, if art is that some semi-spontaneous thing, pseudo-spontaneous, right? The fact that we have this process of recording our voices or our musical instruments or whatever it is, like that's pretty nuts that we would expect that same thing to be to have the same meaning over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Well, it won't. I mean, because the listener brings so much of the meaning, right? I mean, The human
Yeah,
being
that's
is the
right. It's
really
true.
interesting. I think the human being is the really interesting technology, and that like imagine like listening to a podcast interview again the next day. You'd be like, oh, like,
Hmm.
well, I know what they're gonna say next, and it's like that listening experience is so different. Imagine doing that 7 days in a row, the same podcast interview, but like the same one, but you had to write a reflection. How there's an educational idea. Talk about drilling something into someone. Make them listen to it 7 times over 7 days and write a fresh 2,000 words about whatever they want. That's actually really interesting.
But I think it's interesting just listening to podcasts that were recorded before the pandemic started, and like actually getting in a time
Yeah.
machine and like being like, oh shit, like they were
Yeah.
actually in a studio and they were like that's or I was listening to a couple podcasts of when the first Black Lives Matter protests were happening, and that was, so I mean, uh,
2014?
oh no, actually, I was thinking of 2020, like the George Floyd
Ah,
protest. But like
okay.
I was listening to some podcasts that were made around that time. So we had a pandemic, George Floyd protests, and no, I would love to hear podcasts from the original Black Lives Matter protest. That would be probably really educational, and
Yeah.
that would be quite an experience, because that's the thing about podcasts is when you're hearing people just kind of spontaneously chat, you really are kind of jumping in a time machine and getting into a
Mm-hmm.
room with two people that were
Mm-hmm.
talking 6 years ago. It's a pretty amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, that then
yeah,
is, so like as a listener, that's the challenge of like, what do I go do next, right? Because there's so much I can curate for myself, and I would make a particular meaning. I mean, especially since there's you know like 100 people who I've followed for 7 years, all of a sudden, I mean, hearing two people who you now feel like and almost feel like family. You listen to them talk 6 years ago. I mean, depending how lonely you are, you'll burst into tears because it's
yeah,
like
that's
that's
true.
that's like and again, like this is also the pandemic speaking, where it's like we really haven't been able to like love each other in a normal way for a long time. We're starved for being in contact with the people who matter to us. Like it's a very inhuman moment that's happening right now, and everyone is curating their perfect 15-hour day at their computer to get enough money and credit to stay in the game, because no one's gonna save you. If you're lucky, the government will send you $1,400 7 months late.
Oh
If
my
you're
god.
lucky. If you're lucky.
Yeah. Oh man.
So no one really cares if you
And
live
even
or
that might be
die.
stolen. Yeah.
Right. So it's like you need to go make your own safety net for yourself. No one's going to come do it for you. Um,
Well, we're supposed to have a system. We're smart enough that we should build a system that is a safety net for people, but so many people want to fight about that, it seems.
well, yeah, people hate when other people get free stuff. People
It's
cling to their
amazing.
suffering so much, and they're so righteous about their suffering, and that if they suffered, others should have to suffer in the same way. Um,
What
so
is
yeah,
that? Wonder where the hell does that come from? Like the that
well,
feeling of you should suffer because I did. There's some sort of like misery that needs to be shared.
yes,
Uh,
yes, yes. It's a rage at not being recognized, is what that is. I can quote James Baldwin, who said, people cling to their hatred so stubbornly because they realize that if they didn't have hatred, they'd have to deal with pain, and no one wants to suffer alone. And I think a lot of the generation above ours can't retire. Many of my friends' fathers can't retire. They take 2 days off from work and they get grabby. They don't know what they are without a job, and so they go back and find more responsibility because they, you know, I don't know. It's a complicated thing. And I mean, I think you and I are the same, right? You and I throw ourselves in search of frustration and tragedy and something insufficient, right? You and I all, I mean, we curate all sorts of struggles for ourselves. That's all I do. And I try to somehow sell access to me getting myself in trouble on the computer all day. I literally do nothing but create drama for myself.
You curate drama. You
yeah.
make pain pies. That's what we're doing. That's what I think. It's like cooking. It's like baking. You know,
well,
a little bit of this ingredient, a little bit of this ingredient,
now,
mix it all up. Now put it in the oven and you wait for a while until it really gets to be a problem.
Pain pies. I mean, ideally, it's an overcoming pain pie, or it's like a dessert buffet.
Well,
that's
depends
the point,
on how far along you are. Yeah, some people are just making the pain. Yeah,
sure. Well, then it's also like how to deal with it. I mean, like that's really what an artist is like. Let me show you what it's like to be me. Let me show you what it's like inside my mind. I mean, that's what I think a painting is, which I think it's like such a beautiful form. It's like, let me concentrate all my emotions and my reality and my memory very, 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 very slowly, painstakingly over the course of days, weeks, months, years to finish this painting and then give it to you. And it's like, that's me. And it's like, wow. And, you know, deep down, we're all the same. You look at Van Gogh and it's like, God damn, that's me. That, ow. And it rings in you. Your body responds.
I find the older I get, the easier that is to do for me with other artists is to, and I don't know if it's an age thing, but to look at the art, to look at that sculpture or whatever, and look at the detail, and to think like the artist was thinking about that little detail there, like the artist was thinking about the detail of this woman's body that he was sculpting 2,000 years ago. Like thinking about that, like I've thought about that part of a woman's body before, and this artist was thinking about it, and like you just like putting yourself in that place, like or you know, like a painter, yeah, like a neoclassicist, like painting something that even at the time was already an old looking piece of art. It was a classic art, like I don't know, like Raphael or something like that. Painting something that already looked like it was 1,000 years old because he had a connection to those classic, those classic artists. Thinking like I have a connection, so I'm going to kind of try to recreate something, and the emotion's still going to be there. Yeah. I guess I try to do that all the time with music, and I think the older that I get, the more I feel a connection to those older musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard from people who have gone to Greece and gone to the Parthenon and like leaned against the columns, and it's like you can still, and I'm even like getting chills talking about it. It's like you can feel the sculptor communicating with you. It's like they're still here, and that nothing has changed. It's just a conversation that you've now come to.
Is there like an author or a poet that is from a culture that is seemingly so different from yours, but you like sometimes when I read Sappho,
I was just going to say Sappho. It's literally where I went first.
Like, how could I possibly identify with this person in like the exact same words? Like, how is that even possible? You know, of course, it's all translation, but still, it's like, and Sappho especially. Sappho, I feel like was writing for Twitter. So, you know,
240
characters.
Yeah, less. I mean,
Hmm.
you see what she does with one word or three or five or seven or nine words. Yeah, it's incredible.
I mean,
Um,
Shakespeare is another one too, where for a long time I didn't even
oof,
believe
yeah,
Shakespeare was a real person, because how could
right.
somebody write all that? And then you
Yeah,
kind of start to realize that if it was one person, this person was not only a genius, but like they had the same sense of humor as me. You know?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think this takes a while to understand as a person gets older as well. It's like, well, the human experience is very daily, very ordinary, and very much the same as it was even 200 or 2000 years ago, right? I mean,
Humans have changed very little over time.
yeah, I mean, the daily experience has changed very little. So it's not surprising that regular old people in Greece 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago would be much different or unrelatable to today, right?
So there would be a Greek teenager that had the same
Oh, yeah.
crush, had the same crush on a girl
Oh,
that I
yeah.
had.
Oh,
That's kind of
yeah.
crazy to think
Oh,
about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And of
yeah.
course it's true. Of course it's true. But just the thought of like, that's my connection. That's what I'm going to write a song about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really magical, and it's like, I mean, that kind of perspective makes it beautiful to talk about computers, right? Especially when we can, go back to, the 1980s or even the 70s or 60s to people who were involved with computers then.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, and it sort of gets back to like the synchronous asynchronous thing. Like, I don't know, so much of my choices are based on what's already there. I mean, certainly when I'm browsing the internet and building my life out of little blocks. Um, it's all my whole decision schema is like based on what's there, which reminds me of this Miles Davis quote. He says, don't play what's there, play what's not there. Which also reminds me of, I think Thomas Merton, who's a writer, said like, we are condemned to live out what we cannot imagine. We are condemned to live out what we cannot imagine. And it's like the unpredictable thing will keep happening. Chance will keep happening. Surprise will keep happening. And frankly, that's the thing to keep going into is don't be predictable. Be new, be loud, be weird, be distinct, be yourself. Say what's on your heart and just keep going and don't stop.
Yes. Find a new way to reach people if you can.
Well, yeah, sure.
Be
I
different.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's I think if I could go back and live my entire life over again, I would just say that to myself every single day. Would be
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to get a lot of eyes on your failure and your embarrassments, right? I mean, I've been playing with TikTok a bit, and it's like, well, can you like, yeah, you just have to be weird and be original. But like, I'm also such like a practitioner of the creative process, where it's like churn up a bunch of raw material, and then later you'll know what to do with it or not.
yeah, you do like that system, huh? I
Yeah,
I
I
got
mean, if someone could, I don't know. I mean, like if someone like gave me a book deal and said, "Here's a big lump sum that's enough money to live on. Now, like, work hard to produce a certain thing." It's like, okay, I could maybe do that and like be as diligent as the writers in the at least 20th century, if not before, who would like write a day's worth. At the end of the day, read it, do edits on it, and then start there the next day and like make a cohesive thing. It's like
yeah.
that. Like that sounds like a fun challenge, and it's like also like sort of absurd that I haven't done it. It's like, well, what do I think? I can just like keep generating 100-page documents that I never really reread until like 9 months later, and just like for fun. It's like, well, I guess that's what I do. So
Yeah, I've often used the shotgun approach to art. Just try to produce as much as possible. But I think that the problem for me was trying to was publishing, was distributing, was getting it out there. That was the hard part because I could create and create and create,
Well,
but it was meaningless unless I got it in front of somebody else.
well, yeah, and the hard part now is not about getting it out, but it's about getting people to come to it. That's the. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah. I mean, it's
it has been.
the
Yeah.
yeah the getting of the audience and the other, and it's like that's the whole art. I mean, people talk about like last mile in like either the Amazon or Uber worlds of delivery, logistics. Now
Mm-hmm.
the logistics is about, well, how do I get your heart and mind and self actualization to my thing? And I mean that, and like that's the hard part, because the opportunity cost is so high. There's hundreds of other artists. I mean, and speakers and writers, they're setting themselves on fire every minute of the day online on these
Mm-hmm.
platforms because they both are, a soul on fire, but it's also like there's no other safe way out. So if you feel that spark, it's like you can't take it slow, right? You got to
Yeah.
go do it right now. And it's like, well, we've got thousands of people setting themselves on fire. I mean, like I think about kids, and it's like and I don't know. I'm pretty tired of my Instagram Discover tab being full of like young girls doing sexy dances. It's like, God, like, can you please stop like hitting me over the head with that? Like, I'm good. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like,
Tell me about it.
and it's like, yeah, but it's like people are going on TikTok and making content, right? And it's like Twitter, there's nowhere else to go. Nobody cares. Like nobody cares, and nobody can help you.
Well, maybe there's just like there's an oversaturation. So you only have so much attention in the world. So
Yeah,
it's
the
like,
attention economy. That's it.
yeah, it's the attention economy. We're not going to
Well,
generate more attention. Yeah.
no, I mean there's enough. Like there's enough attention, right? I mean, that's even like an absurd question. It's like, is there enough attention out there? It's like, well, everyone is attentive every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question is, what's their attention filled up with?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems more absurd by the day to go to college, and I mean, it's like a bucket of what to do with your attention and a promise of a guaranteed thing. When really, it's like, degrees aren't as important as skills, and it like, you can learn it on your own. You can, but it takes a mindset that you and I both have where there's so many good people online giving their stuff away all the time that you can go learn from. And you can just go watch the people who are winning and go find the people who are good. But it's like each individual needs to know how to go do that and feel empowered to do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh man, the frustrations.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you get acclimated to some risk, right? I mean, resist much, obey little. The American
Yeah.
poet Walt Whitman said that, and it's like as long as you just keep resisting and keep creating, that's what the world wants. It doesn't need you to be tepid or safe or strategic, right? No one fucking cares
I guess not. Well, I mean,
that you can make the right move. You have to do your move.
yeah. A lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about what other people need and what other people want. And I feel
Sure.
like that you and I don't really do that. We don't
Well,
spend that much time thinking.
because we've done it already, and we know it's simple, right? The
Yeah.
thing that Sappho needed and the thing that the Greek teenager needed are the same things you and I still need every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not new. Like, it's not interesting anymore. I mean, it's not interesting. It's not news, and it's like I don't really care to go like
Well, I guess
get a
yeah. My point is that a lot of people are trying to think about what that is so that they can provide something, and you and I are not really doing that. We're not like, we're not YouTubers with the top 10 ways to fund your art. That's not what we're doing
well,
here.
yeah, but you and I are both here for the world to talk about and share what we know, right? I mean, anybody
Exactly.
could send either of us a direct message on any platform or comment on this video on YouTube, right? I mean, we're not here selling it super hard. Like, we're sort of passively open to anybody who wants to be a part of this conversation, right? Lord knows we're not going anywhere. Lord knows you can't, there's nowhere else to go but to be there for each other.
Yeah. Well, I am here for you, Jeff.
And I'm here for you. And it is a privilege and very fun. And yeah, you help make me real.
Yeah, I was going to say, you help make my thoughts valuable to me.
Wow. Whoa. That's a powerful thing.
Yeah,
Wow.
totally.
You help make my thoughts matter more to me.
Valuable to me.
Valuable.
Yeah.
Wow.
Same. Yeah.
Wow. Whoa.
So that's a good place to end, I think.
Sure.
Then, everybody, we will see you next time. We will hear you, except we won't hear you. You will hear us. So
Thanks,
you will hear us
everybody.
next
Yeah,
time.
feel free to write to us, comment to us, DM us. We are here and we are terminally online here for you.